Now, the Belgian government has returned a tooth to the family of the murdered Congolese independence leader Patrice Lumumba during a ceremony that was held in Brussels. It's a gold-capped molar, there it is. It's either a molar or a premolar, and that is all that remains of the former first Prime Minister of the Republic. He was assassinated and then dissolved in acid in 1961. Well, Belgium officially apologised 2 decades ago for its role in the killing. His son Roland reflected on the moment.
It is the end of an era and the start of a new one. The past was a time of exploitation, of fighting, but we hope this has come to an end and we can start a new era of harmony and development and cooperation between equals and responsible exchanges.
So that was Roland Lumumba. Well, from Kinshasa, the BBC's Emery has the story of his father, Patrice Lumumba.
This was the moment for which Lumumba had lived.
Patrice Lumumba was Prime Minister for just 3 months, but his legacy still resonates across the DRC, Africa and the world. It came from humble beginnings and rose rapidly in politics, and was key in his country's fights for independence from Belgium. DRC was formally colonized in 1908, but it had been ruled as a personal fiefdom by King Leopold II as Congo Free State for 2 decades before this. It's believed around 10 million Congolese lost their lives during this time through murder, famine and disease. Brutality that Mr. Lumumba passionately denounced in an Independence Day speech. He said, "We have been persecuted and exiled from our native land. Our lot was worse than death itself." It was not an easy transfer of power.
No sooner had Belgium granted the Congo independence than anarchy swept the unhappy country.
Lumumba had many political rivals, and within the army there was discontent over what some saw as lingering colonial influence. Within a week of independence, there was mutiny in the army and chaos on the streets. The country's president, Joseph Kasavubu, accused Mr. Lumumba of mishandling the crisis and fired him. Lumumba contested, and Kasavubu had him arrested.
Patrice Lumumba was placed under house arrest here in the office where he served as Prime Minister. He managed to escape, but it wasn't long before he was captured, then brought back to this city, then called Leopoldville, now Kinshasa.
He was paraded and humiliated, but it was clear that in the background of Cold War politics, his influence continued to be seen as a threat, both by his rivals and the West. Mr. Lumumba was transported out of the capital to the recently seceded Katanga province, where he had little political support. These are the last pictures of him alive. He was killed by firing squad, the murderers still unknown. His body was dissolved in acid, and his tooth the only known remains.
I put them into the acid.
In 2016, that tooth was found in the possession of the family of a Belgian policeman. Gerard Sout had admitted being involved in the disposal of Lumumba's body. The tooth was eventually seized by the Belgian government.
For me, it's important as a daughter, after more than 60 years, not knowing what happened to our father's body, is symbolic.
And it's symbolic too for people in the country.
You know, Lumumba is someone who has fought for the liberation and independence of this country. And such a hero, not having a grave in Congo, it was not something that we could accept for long.
You see, we are African. We do rely on our tradition, and when the remains of your ancestor or one of your ancestors is back in the family, this means a freedom, a liberation.
Now, the tooth is on its first stage of its journey home. It's been a long 60 years for Patrice Lumumba's family and a long 60 years for the people of this country. Emery, BBC News, Kinshasa.